I'm Alex Hardy. He's Nick Ferguson. We are those guys. Hey, you see these guys? Look at them over there. How about those guys? We're here previewing every division in the National Football League before the 2025 season kicks off. We are in the midst of the AFC. Nick, I was so thrilled we got to do the AFC West to talk about your Denver Broncos, but now we're in the AFC South to talk about your Houston Texans. What's going on, Nick, my man? How are you?
It is a good day for some Texas barbecue. I don't know about you, but I'm a brisket guy.
I'm a seafood guy. If I see Texas barbecue, I will eat it. I'm
Yes.
not going to discriminate. I'll be totally honest with you. Brisket is good. The ribs are good. The burn ends are good. Like I
Well,
just,
are you a pork ribs guy?
yeah, for sure. I'll eat pork. I'll eat beef. It's fine. I mean, like I know within a lot of my community, my faith, pork is out, but I'm not. Again, I'm not going to discriminate.
All right. I used to eat pork ribs at one point, but I like to indulge in the buffalo, the bison ribs, and the beef ribs for
Oh,
sure.
you're crazy. That rack of ribs probably sits on the table like Fred Flintstone. We got the rack of brontosaurus ribs on the side of the car that tipped it over. I saw man, those bison ribs got to be huge. You know what's huge? The steaks in the AFC South, Nick,
Yeah.
because I it's hard to keep track. Right before we sat down, I said, Nick, I got to wrap my head around just how much turnover Nick Caserio and that Houston Texans front office did from a year ago. Right, 2 years ago, C.J. Stroud was with this prolific rookie season. The defense was firing on all cylinders. Look, you win the offensive rookie of the year and the defensive rookie of the year. You think you pat yourself on the back and a job well done. Well, CJ Stroud and Will Anderson both regressed to a certain extent. Injuries certainly played a factor into it, but this team fell well short of their expectations from what they set up in 2023, and they were not going to rest on their laurels. We have a completely rebuilt offensive line, headlined by trading Laramie Tunsil to Washington, and then the receiver core, with the exception of Nico Collins, completely brand new, given the potentially season-ending injury for Tank Dell already. Stephon Diggs is going to pop up in New England, but on the offensive side of the football, they're completely reworked at multiple areas, including a play caller as well. Your guy Bobby Slowick was sent packing. So I don't know where to begin. But Nick, this Houston Texans team should be back in the driver's seat if everything goes to plan. But so much has changed. I think it's hard to just assume that everything's going to be okay.
Well, there's a lot that has changed with the Houston Texans from, 2 years ago. But the one thing that hasn't changed that plays to the Houston Texans' favor is the division that they happen to be in, right? I mean, you gotta win that division with Jacksonville, the Colts, and the Tennessee Titans. And you
Yeah,
talked about CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. The reason that those two guys took a step back and were overly judged because that they burst on the scene
yeah,
and they took everyone by storm. And it was like, well, the Houston Texans are ahead of schedule. And when you move into year two, people are a lot wiser. And then if you're Will Anderson, you can't really rush upfield and get after opposing quarterbacks because your offense isn't as prolific as it once was the year before in year one. So much so that Bobby Slowick, their offensive coordinator, he was fired, right?
yeah,
I mean, at one point, everyone was talking about him after that first year with CJ Stroud. He was getting like 5 head coaching interviews, and then the next year he's out as
yeah.
far as coaching for the Houston Texans. But I don't worry about the Texans. I mean, they have Derek Stingley, they have Daniil Hunter, and they have Will Anderson. They're going to be
Yeah.
okay. And you mentioned the fact of Tank Dell being injured, and you think about the other receivers that are not no
Yeah.
longer
And then
there.
Joe Mixon starting on the pup. We don't know if we're going to get him back.
Well, yeah, but you still you okay. Joe Mixon is on the pup, right? On the PUP. You still have Nick Chubb, who I believe
Hmm.
is one hell of a running back, and he'll be great in that system. You have Dalton Schultz as your tight end, Nico Collins, right? And then you had the rookie Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State, and he's a big guy. He's a 6'4" body type guy.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Christian Kirk, who used to play within the division with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I mean, we're not going to sit here and cry for the Houston Texans. They're going to be perfectly okay. Their saving grace is, guess what? They're not in the same division with a Lamar Jackson or a Joe Burrow.
Well,
So,
yeah,
yes.
I had to catch myself because I talk about this drop off from 2023 when they were 10-7, and in 2024 when I think they fell off a cliff, they were also 10-7. So it's uh, we're hoping the rest of the division is more competitive, but that'll just make things more challenging for this Houston Texans team. Which brings us to the. I mean, do you want to talk about? Oh my gosh, I don't know where to begin. Um, let's. How about we just do it this way? Uh, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They make the big swing to go acquire Travis Hunter, who you saw play in Boulder, along with Shador Sanders and Pops there. So, look, is this whole team defined by pushing all their chips in and going after a special player whom they believe is going to start on offense and mix in on defense? Is that the right way to utilize Travis Hunter as he enters his professional career?
Well, yeah, that was kind of the idea when they drafted it. When
Did
you
you
think about,
always see him as a receiver first when you were at Colorado games?
well, I saw him as a DB first with wide receiver potential. And the idea is that you want to put him on the defensive side of the ball first, and then put plays here and there for him on the offensive side of the ball. And that's the problem with having a guy that is that talented. I guess it's the gift and the curse simultaneously.
Right.
But I mean, when you think about Jacksonville, it's like a three-ring circus. So bringing in a guy who is not just a one-trick pony, it only helps him out because it bolsters opportunities potentially for Trevor Lawrence. It also gives the Jacksonville Jaguars something to sell. They really couldn't sell their team, right, as far as winning. But now we got Travis Hunter. Please
Yeah.
come out. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over. That's what we had, right? So that's what they're potentially selling. And Travis is a one of one, exceptional athlete. I want to see how they manage and how he manages playing both sides. But I mean, he's more than capable of doing just that.
Well, they can definitely use his help on both sides of the football. They did really well in finding Brian Thomas a year ago, who profiles to be one of the top receivers in the league already, coming out of LSU. So excited to see his connection with Trevor Lawrence kind of build. And after getting, for lack of a better term, for getting the bag, it's kind of put up time for Trevor Lawrence. Um, the offensive line was plagued in years past, but when I looked it up, when I looked at their numbers last year, I was kind of surprised that they allowed the sixth fewest sacks last year. That doesn't necessarily mean that Lawrence wasn't pressured, but I kind of had figured he was under fire considering how that he had played at the start of his NFL career. So the offense is interesting. I thought the weak point would have been the offensive line, but they played pretty well last year. The defensive side of the football is a completely different story because of their inability to draft and retain at a consistent level. People always point to Travon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson. Be it as it may, he's developed into a quality player, but the expectations of a 101 kind of makes it hard. And other first round picks of theirs have kind of flamed out and are doing okay elsewhere. So I'm curious to see if this is the time with a new front office and a new head coach again that this is the regime that's going to get it right. Although I do love my guy Liam Cohen. Shout out UMass Amherst.
Oh, you talking about Duval? Oh, okay.
Duval.
Yeah. Listen, you know what? It's unfortunate for Jacksonville to be in the situation that they're in. And you were talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line and the fact of how few sacks that they gave up. You know what I kind of account that to? I account that to their quarterback and Trevor Lawrence
That's what
being
I'm saying. Yeah.
yeah, being able to deliver the ball on time and rhythm, but also his mobility. Like you can't be successful in this league anymore if your quarterback isn't mobile, right? That quarterback has to be able to throw off platform. I
Yep.
know all these other, quarterback gurus and analysts Stay in the pocket, stay in the pocket. I'm like, to hell with that. You see what size those dudes are? Max Crosby? No, I'm running for my life. And just so happens if a guy happens to open up, I'm throwing him the damn ball. So Trevor Lawrence should be wise and continue to move and in the pocket, similar to what made him successful as a Clemson quarterback.
Um, the former number one overall pick has high expectations because of the dollar value that the team spent on him, and the I what else is there to say? They just better not look sluggish again after coming back from London, since this is their kind of bag. Like
Yeah.
they spent half a month in London and they come back and they just kind of collapse over the second half of the season. High expectations for a former number one overall pick. So let's talk about the most recent number one overall pick and the Tennessee Titans. Last year, a calamity of sorts because of a lack of consistency and really more memes than big plays from Will Levis all of last year. Whether it was the surrender cobra on a pick six or just running with his head down on another pick six, it's just CJ CJ Stroud. Cam Ward appears to be a breath of fresh air. I mean, to go from immaculate word to the number one overall pick in the National Football League in a 4-year span is incredible. And everything you read about him in terms of the type of leadership that he has, showing up at Washington State and Miami and specifically asking to put his locker in the middle of the room so that people would have to gravitate around him. The stories off the field sound great. What have you seen so far, whether it was through the combine process or the pro day process, transitioning from Miami, through the preseason? What have you seen out of Cam Ward that maybe gives you some more optimism? I mean, the bar is low, but to be better than what they had at quarterback last year.
Cam Ward is stepping into a very difficult situation. I mean, when you think about how the Titans played last year, and if a team is selecting you as a player and you play quarterback number one overall, that says that that team has a lot of deficiencies, and they're
Sure.
looking for you to come in and uplift that team. Now, Cam Ward is proven that he can be a leader, and he during the pre-draft process, he tried to show that he was a little different from Shador Sanders. I'm going to tell you that he's not, right? He's just
Mm.
lying undercover. It's somewhat of a disguise because when he gets out on the field, he's trying to get his teammates going. He's going to take some of that same, Shador Sanders macho bravado, and that's what you want at the quarterback position. I don't want a passive guy. I want
No.
a guy who's going to stick his chest out, strut around like Mick Jagger, like he's a peacock, and tell people my shit don't stink. Right?
Even if it gets you into a bit of a, we didn't see it, but a bit of a tussle with Jeffrey Simmons, a man that's maybe 100 pounds bigger than you.
Listen, who cares? I've been in fights with offensive linemen my entire
Sure.
career, right?
So what does that say about a rookie doing that to the team captain on the defense?
That's letting people know. That's what I've been trying to tell people. Like, you think that Shador and Cam are two different people based on what you see from Shador on social media and what you don't see from Cam? No. Cam is about that life too. He will show you he's not as quiet and reserved as
Mhm.
everyone thinks. The guy wants to win. I mean, unfortunately for him, he's playing for the Tennessee Titans. And to double down on that, he's got to come to Denver and play the Broncos in week one,
Yeah.
right? And Vance Joseph is going to make life a miserable hell for him. But if he can take that game against that defense and play well and pull off an upsetting win, now the trend now is changed and the trajectory for the Titans have changed in the blink of an eye. And in week one, now the Titans fans are going to say, well, you know what? Will Levis, we drafted you and we thought you were the guy, right? But now we know we have the guy, and he has that moxie and an attitude that you want. So we'll get a chance to see, but I've loved what I've seen from Cam Ward thus far.
There's a difference between going nose to nose with Jeffrey Simmons and eating a banana with the peel on. Some of the macho-ness is a little more contrived than what it really is. And I do credit Tennessee for surrounding Cam Ward with help on the offensive line. They, in my opinion, overpaid, but got a left tackle in Dan Moore. They paid for Kevin Zeitler to come over, a experienced vet guard that had played for a lot of young quarterbacks, both in New York and with the Browns. And that also allows, with the addition of Moore to bring J.C. Latham to play his natural position at right tackle. Peter Skoronsky was a top 10 pick on the interior of that line. So, you know, like it just seems they're doing a more effective job of keeping their quarterback protected and commanding the respect that he deserves and trying to put him in a good position. And the weapons are interesting. Tajay Spears is going to open up on the pup with a high ankle sprain, but he's kind of been battling injuries. So they stand guard with their vets in Calvin Ridley and Tony Pollard to lead that offense. With some other contributors, Van Jefferson came over from the Steelers in free agency. So I'm curious to see kind of how it all pieces together, but a lack of weapons on offense and defense, frankly, um, they just need to show that they aren't the worst team in the National Football League. But my expectations are a little low for Tennessee.
Well, not that I've been sitting in the room with the Denver Broncos and Vance Joseph, but just keeping in mind of thinking from things from a football perspective. Cam Ward can run, but he is not known as being a prolific runner. So
Right.
if I'm the
He
Broncos,
wants to throw. He doesn't want to take off.
right, so I'm gonna get him on the move, right? I'm
Hmm.
gonna force him to be and play uncomfortable, and then we're gonna put him in the thin air. We're gonna get him running, right? From sideline to sideline, get him so tired he can't really lift his arm. It's almost like taking a boxing type of philosophy, right? The first thing to go in boxing are your legs. And once your legs go, your hands go from protecting your face to now down where you're going to protect your ribs. And that's going to open up all of this right here.
Hmm.
Jab, jab, jab to the face. And if the Broncos are able to do that, they pretty much kind of, break a little of his confidence to start the season.
We'll have our week 1 preview, and we will talk about pretty much every other game because it seems like we got Broncos Titans already covered, Nick. So very much appreciated for getting ahead on your homework. And let's round things out with the Indianapolis Colts. A calamity at quarterback with Daniel Jones slated to start. Meanwhile, the rest of the offense kind of has some weapons I'm excited for. Jonathan Taylor, consistently one of the best runners in the NFL, pure runners, and the receiving core of Michael Pittman and Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell, Alec Pierce, even the tight ends. The addition of the rookie Tyler Warren, I'm really excited about. But do they have the signal caller that can distribute the ball consistently and effectively enough to get at least 2, 3 of those guys going?
Well, you got to think about this. Regardless of what we remember about Daniel Jones still has an NFL arm. His biggest asset are his legs. And I think that was one of the reason that you think Shane Steichen decided to draft Anthony Richardson. But Anthony Richardson didn't really embrace the whole concept and idea of being a quarterback in the NFL. I remember last
Mhm.
year when he kind of tapped out, saying as though he was tired in the Texans game. I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Let's pause there because we talked about this on those guys when we were covering the season. So we talked about it
Yeah.
right when it happened, and I kind of learned from you, as an outsider, as a member of the media, like, look, he tapped out. He'll go back in. Like it's a big deal, but you just memory of a goal. You just focus on the next play. But you, as a former player, was where they were suspecting that the team, look, he's given up on the play. The rest of the team potentially has given up on Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, man. Look, you never pull yourself out of the game at any position, especially quarterback,
Mm,
citing that you were tired. So now people wonder, well, what are you doing during the week as far as conditioning is concerned? Because if you're coming off the field, they have to carry you off the field. And then sometimes when you get injured as a player, you don't even want them to touch you, right? Even if you got to drag your leg to the sideline, you would rather do that than be helped off. So I think
mm.
that whole idea just kind of changed the minds of everyone in the Colts organization, which is why they went out and grabbed another first round quarterback in Daniel Jones. And I know Anthony Richardson had something to happen to a finger on his throwing hand, but still, man, you suck that up. You buddy tape it and you get out there and you play. But Daniel Jones,
On an injury because you missed a read and a blitz wasn't picked up, and like it. I don't know, Nick. I don't see it other than the athleticism.
well, listen, man, I mean, Anthony Richardson, the big guy, and everyone was kind of fell in love with his pro day, his size, his arm strength, and that was only 1 year, I believe, 1 year sample size of what he could actually do, which was somewhat of a concern. But now they have Daniel Jones, and I think the Colts can win some games with Daniel Jones, and being able to use his legs is going to create pressure for opposing defense. And then you also mix that with some RPO action with Jonathan Taylor. So they have some weapons. The Colts have some weapons. Do I see them being a contender for a Super Bowl? No. Do I see them winning the crown in the AFC South? No, I don't either.
Okay, we'll get to that momentarily. Just want to touch on the defense because the biggest addition, Luan Arumo, coming from the Bengals. Look, a highly vaunted DC whose Bengals made a Super Bowl appearance and then fell off an absolute cliff ever since. One of the league's worst defenses. How are the Colts looking to revamp things? I think paying attention to their secondary additions, Cameron Bynum and Cameron Bynum and Travarius Ward. They were the big spending off-season additions. They recently traded for Mekhi Blackman, so they add depth and starting talent on a Luan Arumo defense that stresses the importance of the secondary. How do things kind of look, in support of, the guys that have been there, like a DeForest Buckner on the defensive line?
Listen, you can stress the importance of the secondary, and trust me, as a guy in the secondary, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But did the Colts really change their situation? No. And you talk about Luan Arumo being with the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, Trey Hendrickson was their big focal point of their defense. And we know what happened there in Cincinnati. They scored more points, but they gave up more than they actually scored. In any game you play, that's always a losing effort. So you need some duct tape, some chewing gum, a paper clip, pull out MacGyver. You're going to need to pull out every stop that you can to help this defense out. And once again, will Luan Arumo be the savior for the Colts? I really don't know. I don't think so. Let me be totally frank. I
Well,
don't think he's going to be able to do what they anticipate or hired him to do because he doesn't really have those pieces.
coming full circle, you talk about the division that they play in. There's a big difference in helming a defense in the AFC South versus one in the AFC North, like he had used to. So let's stack the AFC South here. Texans, Jags, Colts, Titans, Colts. Titans, Colts. I'll put the Colts last. How are you feeling, Nick?
Well, I'm going from the bottom to the top, right? I'm going to put the Colts at the bottom.
All right, we're
Titans,
in line there.
Titans at the third position, and then I'll go Jacksonville, Houston. Jacksonville, Houston. Yeah.
So exactly as I put it.
Yes.
This podcast would be a lot more interesting if we had more to disagree on, but maybe the South is very straightforward. We'll see how we fare in the AFC North, and saving the best for last, how biased I can be about my Patriots in the AFC East. He's Nick Ferguson. I'm Alex Hardy. Hey, you see these guys over there? Look at them. How about those guys? You can find us on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We're continuing to preview the rest of the AFC. If you missed our NFC previews, we got the entire conference up on our podcast and our YouTube feeds. And look, we're inching closer and closer to the start of the 2025 season. We'll be here with you all throughout with special features with Nick, breaking down game tape. We'll have some fun as well. And just talking about matchups. I mean, at a certain point, Nick, we're going to have to devote, 2.5 hours on our fantasy team. So we'll get there because that's what the people want to hear. And Nick, what do you want the people to hear on your way out?
Well, since we're talking the South and we're talking about barbecue when we first started, hey man, make sure you get good barbecue sauce and don't use that damn ketchup.
That's right. No notes. No notes.